From a professional soccer career to becoming a driving force in the mortgage industry, Brian Covey has shown what it takes to find your competitive edge. Get off the sidelines and get in the game. Find your competitive edge with Brian Covey.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another edition of Finding Your Competitive Edge. So you're going to want to buckle up today because many of you go into my DMs or you ask me when I'm out speaking or with the book that we've got here, like, Brian, how did you build your brand? Let me just tell you, it wasn't by myself, and I've been through several ideations of people helping me, and I landed with the Brand Builders Group. As you guys probably know, last year I promote them, talk about them quite a bit, and you'll probably know some of their story. But today, we're going to bring on my partner in crime, Elle Petrillo, who is actually the Director of Strategic Growth at Brand Builders. She's kind of the magic behind what's happening here. So if your brand is not where you want it to be, which I've been there, or you want to amplify that, accelerate that, and actually get on stages, write a book, have people book you for podcasts, and actually go and be the person that you were called to be. We're going to tackle that today. We're going to give you some of not only the shortcuts, but we're going to tell you some of the pitfalls that I went through and probably many of you are experiencing today. So I'm excited because Elle is the one that we meet with on a regular basis, guides us through, do this, don't do that, and has helped us continue to grow our brand. So Elle, welcome to the show.
Hi, Brian. Thanks.
I'm excited.
I know. I could just hang out with you all day.
Well, and we could. Like last week, we did an entire all-day session, and we'll probably tackle some of that today. But I can tell you from that session and sessions we've done, it's like magic. I go in there and I don't have clarity on something. And I go, okay, how am I going to make a decision and move forward as we go? And I think people's brand, they struggle with clarity. Let's just start with what is a brand today? Because people throw this around. They're like marketing, brand, social media. And it's like, okay, what the heck is the difference? What's a brand?
Yeah. Everyone, when they think of brand, they automatically think things like social media or colors or fonts or logos or, whatever it might be. Your brand is simply your reputation, which means everyone has a brand, whether they like it or not. They're either the ones curating it or they're leaving it up to chance.
Oh, okay. So I want to talk about that because I've shown up at events lately. I think a lot of people don't really think about this, but people look you up before you go, especially if you're speaking. We look up the speakers, we see who's going to be there, and we get this, I call it like a trail. It's like clues that are left about our brand. So what are some of the things today when people think, my reputation, where does that come into play? Like, how is that built today?
Yeah, your reputation, what we created at Brand Builders Group is the reputation formula. So it's really simple. It's what have you done, so your results, and how many people know about it, your reach. And so if you haven't done much, like some people want to build a brand in an area that they don't really have a lot of results in, but they've researched a ton. So they're more of an expert because of research and not life experience. And that's okay too, right? But you have to have one or the other. And then it's going, well, how am I promoting this to other people? How am I spreading the word about it? And so an example of that would be Mother Teresa, where if you look at her, she's done great work, right? Yeah. Everyone knows who she is, so that's a positive reputation. You can take someone like Bernie Madoff, where he's done a lot in this world, and it's not, and a lot of people know about it, but it's negative, right? And so he has a negative reputation. And so your reputation is either positive, negative, or neutral, and it's just really going, what are you doing to curate that positive reputation?
I love that. Well, and you talked about results, and this is where I see, even in my own experience, you helped me go through this. Like, what are your results in this area that you're wanting to either coach, speak, talk about, even the podcast there? For people today, how can they go back and know that they have the results or they don't have the results? Because I think a lot of people, right, we see it, we're like, do you have proof? Do you have evidence?
It's really looking at who do you want to serve. And so ideally, the results you have are just ahead of the people that you want to serve, or the knowledge you have is ahead of the people that you want to serve. And so we always say, like, the person you're best positioned to serve is the person you once were.
Yeah, I love that.
One of the things I wanted to point out, because you were talking about clarity earlier, and what a lot of people experience when it comes to building their brand is they go, it's really along the lines of, when they work with someone in branding, oftentimes that person that they're working with comes in with a game plan of this is exactly what you're going to do, right?
Right.
When we work with you, even just last week when we had our session, I kind of had an outline, but I didn't quite have a specific plan of exactly what we were going to do, because when it comes to your personal brand, it's so customized to who you are and what you want to build and what you're passionate about and what you're best positioned to do.
Yeah.
And so it's creating that with you and not necessarily for you, outside of you, separate from you. It's not a one size fits all. It's just coming together and going, what actually makes sense here?
Oh, I love that. And the number one difference between, we've worked with several different firms in phenomenal groups, right? Like people that I say, man, I learned things from working with them.
Yeah.
But the biggest difference working with you and Brand Builders was that it was customized. Hey, Brian, who are you? Who are you most equipped to serve? Like you said that, like, who were you before 5 years ago, 10 years ago? And I started thinking about that. I was like, wow, okay. And then I have results in those areas, and we were able to pull that out. That customization, I think, is unique because today I see this on social or people that speak and they're like, your brand, here's the 3-step process or 5-step. Everybody's going to have the same steps and everybody's going to, I don't think so. Let's dig into that a little bit. The customization, does that come from getting clarity about who you are and who you once were?
Yeah, well, we start with, so the brand builder's journey, a lot of people go, well, how long will it take me to get through this, right? There is no destination with building your brand because you're building a business. There's no end game to that, right? Unless you're selling it. But again, so where we start is what's called finding your brand DNA. And so we have a framework, right? So it's not going or 3 steps to do, you have to do this, this, and this. It's a framework that allows us to discover in one word, what problem do you solve?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing, most people don't know what problem their brand solves. And that's why they struggle to grow, because if you don't know what problem you solve, no one else does either. And fortunately or unfortunately, people pay for your solutions to the problems that they have. So we want to get clear of what is that problem you solve. Then it's going, okay, well, what's the cause of that problem? Then what is your message to solving that problem? What is your truth? It doesn't have to mean it's my truth. Quite honestly, sometimes people say things and I'm like, I don't agree with that. It doesn't matter if I do, I'm not their audience. It matters that's their truth. Then it's going, what makes you unique in this space from every other person who's talking on this? And a lot of people are like, well, that's all been said before. And that's not true. If you look at how many people speak on leadership out there, there's a ton. And it's going, they can do that. And it's not that you're not repeating something someone else has said. Your job is to further the conversation through your own experiences, your stories, your beliefs, your strategies, behaviors, so on and so forth. So once we get clear on what makes you unique in your space, then we dive into also who is the target for this and how do you want to monetize it? And then, which is another key component that I think is really unique about Brand Builders Group, is we not only teach you how to build your brand, but how to make money with your brand. Yeah. And it's not just about making money, y'all. I'll just say it's about making difference and making an impact, but most people also want to make money. And then from there, also looking at how do we package you and how do we position the brand? What do you say yes to? What do you say no to? What are the characteristics of your brand? And that's where we start, is getting clarity. So that is the main word when people go, well, what do I get when I first start with you? It's clarity. And that might feel like an intangible, but think about how much money and time and energy and resources most people have spent trying to seek out that clarity and not getting it.
I could say I did the same thing. Mm-hmm. And then you try to emulate people that you look up to, right? And that's the common thing of, well, I want to be like them because I really love Ed Milet, or I love what John Maxwell talks about leadership, or whoever it might be. And you go, well, then you start trying to be like someone. It's like, what's your uniqueness? And I love that part of the process. I would tell people, even if you set your brand and the monetization to the side, learning who you are and who you were created to be, and then unpackaging your gifts for others. Mm-hmm. Like, it's beyond speaking, it's beyond all of that. It's like, okay, who are you when you're a dad, or who are a spouse, or showing up at work, and all these. So I would tell everybody, if you don't have clarity today, you need to get the clarity, because without it, you can't move forward. It's almost like trying to go to a destination and going, well, I really have no idea where I'm going. And so then I have no map to get there, right? As you work through. Talk to me about this one word and this problem people solve. Because I think a lot of folks probably struggle. They hear that and they go, okay, so I'm going to learn I solve one problem. It's like, no, but there's a word. And I love how you frame this. You helped me move into a space to go, okay, this is now starting to make sense. Like, this is who I am when I show up. This is my essence. This started to become my reputation, and now what people say when I'm not around. Yeah.
So the problem that we solve at Brand Builders Group is obscurity, right? And so there's so much information out there around brand building. People go, I don't know where to start.
Yeah.
and I don't know what to do next. And all I want is a roadmap of tell me what to do and when to do it, when to spend the money, when not to spend the money, and how to do it, and what are the best platforms for it, and, you know, the best vendors, and so on and so forth, right? And so we solve the problem of obscurity by giving clarity.
Yeah.
And our message is teach what you know. Like, if you don't know what else to do, just teach what you know, and it will work, right? So that would be an example. We also use like Dave Ramsey. The example we share with him is the problem he solves is debt, right? He's built a business for 30-something, 40-something years, a massive empire, just by helping people solve the problem of debt.
Yeah.
Brene Brown is on shame. Like, she's helping people overcome shame through vulnerability. And so those are examples of one-word problems that are huge problems.
Yeah.
They're not out there, well, some people are marketing it, really saying, like, I'm helping you solve the problem of shame and overcoming shame. That's not what she's doing. But behind the scenes, internally, that's what she's doing.
Yeah. Well, I love what you said too earlier of, you know, your reputation and the things. And I think about when I'm not in the room, what are people saying about Brian, right? Like, what is that image they portrayed? And I think about that's the brand. As it starts to grow and align, then people are going to say things that do align up with what you're there. And you mentioned that, like, I think it's like Brene Brown. You're like, oh, wow. She doesn't say it that way, but that's what I think of. She helps people solve those problems. Dave, obviously, is a big one. Obscurity is a big one because a lot of people want to become known, right? And they want to get on these big stages and all that. So I'd love for you to help us understand. You know, people want to just make this massive leap, I feel like. Even myself included, is like, man, I want to get on these big stages with these people. And you're like, well, one, that you don't know all the hours and time and the work they've done behind the scenes with people like yourself. And they've worked with an Elle to go, okay, here's the problem you solve. Here's your audience. And they work through it. If someone wants to get into speaking, yeah, let's talk about, because I know a lot of people listen to our show and they're like, Brian, I want to speak. I want to be on more stages. Where do they start for this?
Speak for free. You know, it's like every business where people are successful, they're successful because they did the things that other people didn't want to do.
Yeah.
And people go, well, I've done this for how many years? Like, I don't want to speak for free. It is against my values to speak for free because I should be paid for what I worth. Like, I don't have the time to, if it's not making me money, I'm not going to do it, right? And it's like, if your dream is really to be on stages, go get reps in.
That's right.
Right? Make the connections. And what people also don't realize is when they go speak for free, the best people to network with at that event are the other speakers.
Yes.
It's like they just go and do their thing and then they hide away. It's like, go build relationships with other speakers who can help you get into the rooms that you want to get into. And also you can help them with whatever it is that you can bring to the table for them. But that's probably one of the biggest things is just speaking for free. I just share this randomly. I spoke for free in Miami, and at that event met one person who then led to about 10 other paid speaking engagements within a year. From one person who was in the audience, right? It wasn't a huge audience, but it's like, sure, I'm going to go do this. And then next thing I know, it created all these other relationships.
Yeah.
So that would be, I would say that. The other thing is when it comes to speaking, the second thing besides speaking for free is being willing to book yourself. Everyone's looking for someone to sell them for them. If you're not willing to sell yourself, no one else is going to be willing to sell you either.
Yeah.
And so that would be the other thing I would really coach people on and encourage them to do is sell yourself. Put yourself out there and build relationships with meeting planners. Pitch, figure out what you want to speak on, the best way to position yourself for that, which we also help people do.
Yeah.
But that would be the other thing is everyone wants to know, how do I get a speakers bureau? How do I get an agent? How do I get an assistant to pitch me for me? Will you pitch me for me? And the answer is no. You have to learn how to do it and then get your reps in, and then you can start charging more, getting on bigger stages, building those relationships, and then eventually having someone book you for you.
Love it. I think a lot of people want to skip past that step, right? Because probably in their current role, their company they work for, maybe they own a company, they're like, well, I get paid to do what I do.
Yeah.
This is a new place, right? And you think about, you don't walk in like an athlete and you have a check and, hey, we're going to pay you to do this. And you put your reps in. I love the story you said too, that one connection we forget about. Last week I had something very similar. I'd spoken at an event with Daniel Gomez. And then from that, someone saw the post. they weren't able to go speak in San Diego coming up. So they introduced me to a gentleman in San Diego that runs events, right? And we were talking about this. We started going through it. I have this great intro call with him last week, and we struck up a friendship. We actually have a lot of alignment on things. So going forward, I don't know if or when I will speak, right? I do think when is probably more appropriate. And now one connection. Because he saw a picture of me speaking, right? And you go forward. So if you want to do it, I love what you said, because until people see you in that role and you put the reps in and you know where you're good and you know where you need to improve, you're basically just like the hope strategy of what's there. And I love how you said you need to sell yourself, because a lot of times we're looking for somebody, book me on a podcast. Someone's going to call me to have me speak. I don't think so. But I want to put a plug in, because people are probably listening going, okay, where do I plug in? And we created this free brand call. So if somebody's out there and you're like, hey, this is me, Brian, I need help. I resonate with all this. You want to tell them about what that free brand call looks like? Because I think probably a lot of people listening, they need to do what I did, and several of my friends that have now engaged.
Yeah. Actually, I think all of those are coming. You got to talk to me. Yes. I'm pretty sure. If not, someone on my team who's really awesome. But ultimately what this call is, it's about a 45 to 60 minute call where we're diving into you. About half the call is really focused on what have you done and what your goals and your vision is, and why you really want to build a brand and get into the core and heart of it. What I will say is we work with people who are mission-driven messengers. This is not about celebrity. This is not about making a crap ton of money. If that happens, awesome. It's about spreading a message and being on a mission to do good in this world and have impact in this world. So that's really important to know that. Because then we dive into like, why is this brand and this mission and this impact and influence so important to you?
Yeah.
What are you really looking for in a partner? Because I'll also say we are not a fit for everyone. If you are looking for a quick fix, if you're looking for a short-term relationship, that is not us. We're in this for the long haul with you. We are a partner. So we dive into all of that and kind of get a really good understanding of what are you trying to build? What would you like to do? What have you done that's worked? What's not working? Try to figure out all the ins and outs there. And then we walk you through how our process actually works on the journey, because we have a 4-phase approach to it. And if that makes sense for you and if that's aligned with what you're looking for, great. We'll talk through how we can help you with that. And if it's not, that's cool too, right? Like not everyone's a fit, and we might say we're not a fit and you might say we're not a fit, and that's okay. But this call is just really low pressure, just a conversation and figuring out, okay, if you want to do this, are we the partners for you?
And I love it. What I would tell her is, few things here. One, you get a free call with a pro that you probably haven't had the chance to have access to like that. And you will be able to unpack and realize where you are. It's almost like the emotional intelligence part of realizing, okay, where am I and where do I want to go? And you realize this gap that exists for all of us. And I love what you said earlier too about it's a journey. And I realized that for myself is, okay, we're committing to this for a while to go forward. So I'd say one, that's it. Two, when you look at this, you're going to leave the call and know the fit, which I think is important. And I thought that was great for me, because working with some other agencies and people before, I'm like, okay, I like parts of this, but the mission driven was very much in alignment with me, where I was like, I want to make an impact. This is, I have my day job and my companies and things. I'm like, I'm going to continue to run those. This needs to complement that. That was big. The third, I would tell you, this is just me, you will save time and money.
Yeah.
Like I spent a lot of money trying this, trying that, quick fixes too, trying those. Like I'm going to do a quick fix here. I'm going to do that. And if you want to actually put in the reps and get good at this and move into a world that you can be great, start here. Save yourself time and money, because I spent a couple of years just not really on the clear path, and it was just trying things. And so I would just say, for everybody listening, book the call for those reasons alone as you go forward. Okay, so we got the call plug, because I listen to podcasts all the time and I'm like, okay, now I need help. I'm in the middle of this. Like you've overwhelmed me. This is me. You're speaking to me. Help me.
Wait, tell them how to get the call.
Okay, so we're going to put the link, but we will make sure, tell them how we get on the call, because
freebrandcall.com/Brian Covey.
Boom.
Super easy.
Yeah, freebrandcall.com/Brian Covey. And we'll put the link in there, so we'll make sure we got that. Book your call. Let me know that you booked your call as well, because I love to keep up with people's journey. I've had several of my friends engage in that, and what's cool is seeing their progress. I have someone in particular, you'll probably know who it is, but I pulled up their social and I started to see things that they were sharing in their message. I'm like, the difference was night and day. And I was like, they're the same person, but they're in alignment with what's there. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So we covered.
I think one thing I'll say, one of the things fun when we were working on your content, right? We're coming up with these points, and I'm like, gosh, that's so dang good. I want to use it myself. But this is really, it's a collaboration.
That's huge. And so, one of our core values at Revolution Mortgage is even collaboration. What's cool here is, you're right, even last Tuesday, and I'd love to talk about that a little bit, because that was another breakthrough for me. So people are like, okay, I'm going to get calls. What do I get when I sign up and all that? Last Tuesday for me was phenomenal, and it's an all-day session, and we're breaking down some things of, do I want to speak more? Do we want to do coaching courses? What are we going to do with the book? Like, we're looking at all these avenues, and we're able to get clarity. You'll give me an idea of like, what is this one-day workshop thing?
Well, what we did was a brand strategy day. They're intensive. So we have really 3 offerings. One are intensives, which you can start with that, which you had done, a 2-day, right? We have a 12-month membership, and then we have like a starter membership, right? If you're dipping your toes in. What we did last week is we were really focusing on reimagining your website and the strategy for your website and how we were going to use your brand and what we're driving people to with it.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think is so important for people to realize is that just because you can doesn't mean you should. And what happens as you grow your brand is that people are going to start asking a lot of things of you, meaning, ooh, will you coach me? Do you have a program to this? Can I buy a course? And they throw these things out. And what we do as entrepreneurs and business people is we go, ooh, that's an opportunity to drive revenue. I should do that. That's not true, right? We want to get super focused and keep it really dialed in, because as Rory Vaden, who's our co-founder, says, diluted focus is diluted results.
Yes.
Increased focus is increased results. And a common trap that we see, especially when people have started making traction with their brand, is they start developing all these revenue streams which distract them from the main thing.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, there's a lot of overwhelm, there's a lot of confusion, distraction, and not getting the results that you want at the ease that you want them.
I love that. And you even talked about one of the guys I look up to, first podcast I ever listened to with Lewis Howes. Mm-hmm. And you shared that story with me last, and that landed for me of someone like Lewis that has achieved all these great things. It's somebody I look up to and go, man, first podcast I listened to, and you told me about all these revenue streams and all the things he was doing. And then when he narrowed his focus, and I can even see it. Mm-hmm. And I go back to that, I'm like, wow, if somebody that's that good still needs to narrow their focus. I think all of us need to think that way, because you're right, the shiny, flashy object syndrome for entrepreneurs. You're like, well, someone asked me to do it, so I'm going to go do it. And so I love that, because in this journey, if you do it by yourself, I think it just takes so much longer. You make mistakes, and you don't know the pitfalls of what could happen. And having somebody that's a guide and a pro guide you through. So, okay, I want to shift, because I get asked this question. I'm sure you get it all the time. We're on social media. We see people posting. We see all these things. Like, okay, now I've started to build my brand. I have somewhat of an idea of what my brand should be, who my audience is. Does it even matter that I'm posting on social? Like, what is this whole thing about? Like, how often? Like, I'm sure you get all these questions. Let's try to break this down for people wherever they are of why does it matter and what should they be doing? Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of feelings about social media. One of the most common things I hear on every single call that I do with people is, I hate social media.
Yeah.
So let's start there, because I really think there's a reframe to happen there. Is if you look at social media as a business tool. So for example, most people use QuickBooks, right? A lot of people use QuickBooks. You have WordPress, you have ActiveCampaign or Keep or HubSpot, whatever your CRM system is. These are all business tools that you have and you use. I never hear someone go, well, I just hate HubSpot. I hate funnel building. Like, I hate it, right? It's like, you don't, because you see the value in it. But with social media, because there's not usually instant gratification or an instant ROI on it, you don't see the value in it. Mm. And so what I really encourage people to look at, this is a business tool. It's a long game. It's about consistency more than anything. The other thing people do, it's like, oh, I don't want to be Insta famous. Okay, then that's cool. It's not about that. Yeah. You're getting distracted by this perception that's out there that people who have huge followings, that their goal is to be Insta famous. Most of them are not, depending on what their content is. But in this space, most people are not. It's about impact.
That's right.
Then we also go, well, I don't have a big following, or I want to, like, my goal is to have 1 million followers within the next 2 years. Okay, that's great. That can be your goal. However, I also know many people with millions of followers or hundreds of thousands of followers who are not making any money from their following. And a great example of this is like reality TV stars, right? They get on a show, they build a huge platform, and they get off the show and they have this platform and they do nothing with it, or they make really bad decisions with it and they start doing these ads and sponsors that are not reflective of really who they are or in alignment with them. So when it comes to social media, it's all about consistency. It's about putting out value for free. It works if you work it. I always also share an example of the mastermind I'm currently in. Just do a quick plug for Altar Call. But I found this through a Google search. And I was just looking for some type of a mastermind. And this one is on spiritual entrepreneurship. So then I started following Ryan, who's the founder of Altar Call. I was following him for a couple months, just paying attention to his content. And what I was looking for is there stuff in here that I haven't heard before, right? Is there stuff in here that feels really aligned to me? Do I like him? Do I trust him? And over that, then I bought an event ticket. I went to the event and then I joined the mastermind. But it started with his social media accounts because every single day he was putting out content that I was learning from, that I trusted, that was aligned with me and my values. So I wanted to know him more. Mm-hmm. So what social media actually allows you to do is accelerate the trust process without ever speaking to someone.
And I will say, my journey has been that with the mortgage business, right? And we've talked about that. That's where my journey started over 7 years ago. I wanted to show up because the company brand was the big brand and Brian Covey brand was this little small, and when I inverted that and I said, okay, I'm going to become the person that they know, they like, they trust. And we started to recruit great people. And I say we moved out of recruiting, we moved into the attraction stage. Mm-hmm. And then since then, it's phenomenal how you are on podcasts or you have an article written or you're just showing up on social and people go, man, I really like that guy. I'm going to have a call with them. And that's what our hope has been and our experience is showing up. And when you said a business tool, I thought about that immediately. When people say things, and you'll probably have that, and I know people have said things, but why are you on social so much? Why are you so, they don't say consistent, but I look at it as that's what they're saying is, why are you on social so much? I'm going, good, that means I'm being consistent. Mm-hmm. And I go, well, the results in business align up with me showing up there. When I don't show up or I haven't in the past, I don't have the steady flow of calls and leads. And so...
Well, people, it's like, think about it. People put more time into figuring out what to put on a brochure than they do on their platform, right? And it's going, well, how many people are going to pay attention to your brochure? How many people are on social every single day? Just like the book on your desk is a business tool. Yeah. Right? That's what that is. It's a marketing tool. It's a way to get your message out into the world and to attract people. And people just assume that it's all perception, right? If you have a book, you're a published author, then you're elevated.
Yes. Well, it's true. But I look at it, elevated the status of a lot of people talk and they don't have the action to back it up. It's almost the result. And it's like, to be a published author, I know what it took me. And if somebody did it faster than me, that means they're probably smarter or had a better process. Good for them. But I know how many months it took me and how many years before that I toggled with the idea. And so to have the finished product is a level of respect. And I look at that very similar to I do podcasts. When people have started a podcast, we're nearing our 100th episode, and I look at how many people have fallen off. How many people, the stats, never make it to like episode 10 even. What do you think the importance of a podcast is today? And should people look at that as a potential avenue to get their name, their brand, and such out?
Yeah, that's a common question we get. If you feel called to do a podcast, do one. It's another tool. It's another way to get your reach, right? If people don't know who you are, they can't do business with you. The great thing is when you have your own podcast and you invite guests, then you tend to also get invitation to those guest podcasts. Yeah. So it's another way to borrow audiences to create a bigger reach, to create a bigger audience, right? To grow your reputation. However, if you do not feel like you can commit to a podcast, if you do not feel excited about one, don't do one. Because again, this is another example of it requires consistency. And if you're not consistent, you're not going to grow and it's going to be a waste of time and money and energy and resources. So it's more about timing and desire and passion and commitment. And a lot of people go, well, if you tell me I should have a podcast, I'll do one. It's like, can you be consistent is really what I want to know. Are you actually excited about this idea of it? Because it's work. It's not easy to do a podcast. It's not easy to do any of this. It's really simple. It's just not easy.
Yeah. And I would say it's not easy to do a good one. A lot of people have done them and I'm included. I listened to the first few episodes and I go, man, how far have we come? But you're right. If you're willing and you're consistent to put the reps in, you'll get better. What I found is not only do you make great connections. I mean, I look back at some of the guests we've had on, and they are some of the guests that have fueled new businesses. They're some of the guests that have introduced me to get on stages. They're some of the guests that now are part of brand builders. And I say, hey, you're doing all this stuff really amazing, but who do you have guiding you through? Because they might be further along or in a different place. And I look at that. And I also look at this last piece of, when people look you up and they Google you, they look you up somewhere, and you have this and you've committed to it. It's something. The other day we posted about, hey, we're past our 90th episode and all that. And I had a bunch of people, it was so encouraging. They have their own shows typically, right? They say, Brian, that is awesome. And I'm at 100, I'm past 100, keep going. So you start to create this tribe of people that you're right. Now I'm in different circles and different audiences that I would have never been in. So I love what you said is, if you're not passionate about it, don't go do it.
Yeah. Also, the higher level guest, oftentimes people don't realize this, will look, if you don't have at least 100 episodes under your belt, they won't even consider coming on. And so that's another thing, because obviously, like you said, we were talking about this the other day of like your first few episodes are, I haven't listened to them, but you said they were rough. But that, I would say too, that's to get better guests, you need to have more episodes.
Yeah. And I owned it. I make a joke out of it, but I tell everybody is, look, I would actually be more embarrassed had my first episodes still sound like the ones today, and I didn't grow. I would actually be mortified of that. That would be my biggest fear. Okay, so we talked about podcasts. We mentioned the book. So let's just say somebody's thinking about doing a book, right?
I actually have a question for you.
Yeah.
You said you toggled with the idea of having a book for a few years. What made you pull the trigger?
It was one of those moments, in life when you have thought about something for long enough and you're like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do it. I've said I'm going to do it. I need to do it. And it was just one of those. And I said, I'm going to do it. Didn't know what I was going to write about at that point either, by the way. Like when I said I was going to do it, I'd actually attended a mastermind that they were talking about, we could help you write a book. Yeah. And I think that planted the seed of, okay, somebody will help me. And then what I did after that was I raised my hand and said, hey, I need help. I don't even know where to start with this. And so I did partner up with someone that could help guide me through. So that was really the event for me, was showing up, seeing people that had books and how there was an elevated status. And I just felt like I had a book in me. I'm like, a lot of people confuse Covey, all this stuff, right? So the Stephen Covey, I'm like, maybe I should have a book in that realm. Yeah. But it really was that decision we all make in our life at certain points to move forward. And I said, I would regret it more if I did never write it. And then what happened was the idea, it's funny how this happens. I think God works in these mysterious ways like this, but also very, very important and intentional ways. I was like, well, I've got this podcast. I've got all these amazing guests and stories. Not everybody listens to a podcast. Not everybody's ever going to go find me over there. What if we took their stories and we actually took the highlights and what I learned and applied and created almost like mini TEDx talks, but it had it in a written format. So the idea was birthed after I said, I'm committed to do it. It's almost like, hey, I'm going to commit to get in shape. Well, I don't know what the workouts and nutrition plan is yet, but I'm committing to that. Then I got the steps and I got help, just like with brand builders, like working with you. I committed to, I want to be in a better spot with my brand. I want to have clarity. I want to understand my audience. I want to make a bigger impact. I don't know where to start. And I think, don't you think like that's the place it starts, is
you
ask
make
for
the
help.
decision.
Yeah.
You make the decision and then you figure out how to make it the right decision for you.
Well, and Coach Burt says this. I love, Coach will share this all the time, is decide means to kill off something. And so I was killing off my complacency. I was killing off my holding off all the limiting beliefs that I had in myself of no one's going to read it. It's going to be too hard. How much is it going to cost? Like all that went through my brain. I killed all those off and said, I'm doing it.
Well, I think that's also the perfect example with your decision with Brand Builders Group, because when you started, you were traveling all the time, right? You still travel quite a bit, but not as much. You're in meetings all the time. To get work done in between our sessions was a challenge. Still is a challenge, right?
Yeah.
But it's going, I'm okay going at this pace. We'll go as fast as we can, as slow as we need to. I'm committed to doing it.
Yeah.
And then we've been able to figure out ways to be flexible and make the most out of our time. So that way, every single call, every single month, you're progressing.
Yes.
And I think people get caught up in their head of, well, if I can't do it all in, if I can't give this all the time, all my energy, no other things going on in my life, like if I can't do that, then I can't do this. Yeah. And it's going, well, no, you have to make the decision and then we'll figure out to work around all these other things going on.
I love that. Well, you talked about that too, because people are probably listening to their brand, and whether they've started one, haven't started one, I think you all have that reputation out there, but that reputation has got to transcend and align up with where you're going. And I love what you said is we started just taking very simple things in between every month of, hey, we're going to do these 2 or 3 things. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to get, like you said, I'm past the quick fix mentality, because I think when you get there, you haven't done the reps and you haven't really, in some ways, earned it and you know it. Mm-hmm. And so when you put the reps in, people see that now. So what would you say to somebody that they're like, okay, I've started, I'm on social, I kind of have an idea of my audience. Maybe I even have a course, I have a book, I have a podcast. They have something. They're in the game, as I like to say. What does that look like for them on pacing? Because you said you can pace it at your own pace. But how does that even work?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways, right? It depends on the type of client you're working with. There's 2 types of people that come to us that I really love. It's that person who's just getting started, who's going, I don't want to take the hard path here. I want to be told exactly what to do so I don't waste. And then it's the person like you who's tried all the things, hired a bunch of people, spent the money. It's not working the way it's working, but not working, right? And they're going, there has to be a better way. So it's like they've already felt the pain of trying to figure it out on their own, right? And then we have people, usually those 2 are like ideal. Then we figure out, okay, what's the pacing look like? It really comes down to what situation you're in. We have some people who go, I need to make money with this quickly, right? Now, we do not promise in the 30 days, 60 days, you're going to have a 6-figure launch. Like, that's not us, right? Have I seen it happen? Yes. But so much of that is required or based on your skills and your audience and your willingness to get uncomfortable and your willingness to go sell. So some people come in going, I need this to make money. And so the fastest path to cash we know is trading time for money, which is usually a coaching service. Sure. It's providing some sort of service. If you're in the place of going, I don't need this to make money. I want it to make money, but I know that I need to set the foundation in place, right? Then it's going, after we do brand DNA is what's going to dictate the rest of your journey and what's important. So some people will go to brand DNA to captivating content where we're helping you create your thought leadership. Some people already have their thought leadership really, really tight, and then we can jump into their website. Or it's going, hey, we have to jump. You have a book coming out, so we have bestseller launch plan, which is a client I worked with this past week. We just did brand DNA, but he's shopping his book. We got to jump into the launch plan. Then after we have that, we're going to go to his website because his website needs to be cleaned up for his launch strategy to be really effective. So I hope what y'all are getting the point here is that it's a customized journey based on your goals. Yeah. Not a one-size-fits-all approach.
When I love through this process, I can tell you guys emphatically, I know for me, my impact has grown, which is what I wanted. I wanted to meet cool people. I wanted to be around people that wanted to do big things in life. And that collective impact of going on a podcast, getting to speak somewhere, like the opportunities that come about because you get in alignment here is huge. And so for anybody listening, I can just be your testimonial, but I know we'll have several others. So hit me up, DM me. We've got the free call. We've got all that stuff set up to help you guys. Let's go a different route. So I'd love to know, how did you get into all this? So people can get to know Elle a little bit, because we've covered all the stuff. Like, we can't cover it all because like you said, like we've done intensives, we've done 2 days, we've done, all these different workshops and all this, but somebody's probably out there going, Elle, like, how did you even get into this?
Thank you, Lewis House. Kind of by mistake, by happenstance. So my sweet spot when it comes to helping people with their personal brands is really selling systems for personal brands and scaling sales and personal brands, which my entire background has been in sales, from door to door to C-suite to, transactional, B2B, consulting, like all different types of sales. Back in 2018, I was fired unexpectedly with some other people from a company that I was with for over a decade doing sales. And then shortly, a few months later, Rory and AJ called and said, do you want to start a new company? And I said, hell yes. What is it? They said, you need to read these 3 books. And it was like 3 marketing. One was on funnels. One was on marketing strategies. I don't know. A world that I've never been in. So before this, I knew what a TED Talk was. I booked Rory for his TED Talk that went viral. So I knew how to land a TED Talk. I sold Rory as a speaker for almost a decade at this point. So I knew the world of speaking. I did presentations myself. I was a part of his book launch back in 2013 and 2015. So I had already gone through 2 book launches. One was a New York Times bestselling, one was Wall Street Journal. So it's like I kind of was behind the scenes of his brand before he ever even had a book deal. We were working together. So I was doing this without knowing anything about what I was doing. At this point, I barely had an Instagram account. I still barely have an Instagram account, let's be honest. But they said, we're going to start this branding company. And it was an idea sparked by Lewis Howes that he gave to Rory and AJ after they had helped him with some things with his brand. And so then we launched Brand Builders Group on his podcast without a website. We had an offer. We had our tech people selling, marketing people selling, like people that don't know how to do sales. Everyone hands on board. We launched his podcast, launched on his podcast. It drove hundreds of calls, if not thousands. And within our first year, had a 7-figure business. But it was going, we had a framework, we had a plan, we had an offering, and we had people who believed in it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I love the story too, because I'm always curious, like, how did you get into what you're doing? But what you just outlined very eloquently and concisely is how you guys just started a business, and everybody out there is wanting to start their business with their brand. You guys just did it. Mm-hmm. And you've gone through all of the different facets. I don't know anybody else out there that has been through it.
Well, I would say what was fortunate is that this wasn't Rory and AJ's first company that they've built, right? So we actually have been able to make a lot of, and I came onto their last one when it was 3 years in. So we knew a lot of the mistakes. We knew a lot of the tech we were going to need. We knew a lot of the things that had to be in place for this to be successful. So that made it a little bit easier. I would say it was really, we're finally feeling in a place where we're ready to scale. Everything's really settled. But it's been a wild ride the last 5 years. And this is one of the reasons I just want to share this, because I feel called to, is I don't believe in imposter syndrome. I think it's BS. And I'm sorry, y'all. But it's because I think about when we started this business, I didn't know, it was really hard for me to figure out branding strategy. It required me to use a creative part of my brain that I didn't have to use for a decade, right? I didn't know how to figure out someone's problem and core target and all. I was teaching people how to get referrals and closing and objections and all the prospecting techniques for years. And it's going, you can stay in this space of going, I don't know what I'm doing for as long as you want, and try to do it and be an imposter. Or you can go, screw it, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to learn as much as I can. I'm going to study as much as I can. I'm going to do as much as I can for free so I can get the skills and the knowledge that I need to be able to go do this at a really high level. And so that's how I think people overcome imposter syndrome, is they take action.
I talk about that all the time. Is like the difference between where you are and where you want to go is literally taking action. Because you can think about it all day, you can visualize it all day, you can try to manifest it all day. Until you take the first step, you're in the same place. You're sitting on a couch, you're sitting at your desk today, wherever you're listening, driving in your car. You have to take a step forward. And so we got the free brand call. We're going to call people to action of, guys, book your call. It's free, number one. Number two, I really believe God opens doors like that will show you where you're called to be next. And so this could be that prompt for you. Figure it out. At the end of it, you may be like, this is not for me. I don't want to go through this journey. This is not what I believe is next for me. Cool. But some of you, and I know some of my good friends have taken that step and they have signed up and they're like, Brian, that is the single best thing I have done in the last 5 to 10 years. They're like, I'm just going through motions. I'm not having the success I want, but I know I'm called to do this. And that gave them clarity to move forward. So I love what you said. And I talk about this, whether you're an athlete or now we call them corporate athletes in business, is the reality is you're going to have things today that you're like, well, is that for me? Can I do it? Guess what? Everybody went through that journey at some point. I even hear, in Ed, one of my favorites, right? It's all about moving from his space in financial services to moving out and doing this and, hash browns versus hashtags and all this crazy stuff. He talks about and I just laugh because we all have to go through the journey, but why not start today?
That's, I had a call last week with this guy. He's young, he runs an incredible business. In 3 years, I think it's 150 million, insane business. Wow. And I was just like, why now? And he was like, I wish I did this a couple of years ago because of what you were talking about, right? Attracting top talent, retaining top talent. Yeah. It's really more about the business model growth and making it easier through his personal brand. And y'all, because this is such a journey, every year you put it off is another year of more opportunity you could have created.
Yeah. And I want to be around, I've always said, I want to be around great people wanting to do even bigger things in that collective impact. The only way to get around there is to get in the game. Because what I found is like the people sitting on the sidelines, they can chirp and say whatever they want to do. They're not in the game. So they really are not the ones you want to be around anyway. Get in the game and watch how this starts to unfold in your life and you meet amazing people. And I always say this, like, you are literally one person away that might be that introduction or someone you can help that you've been placed in that conversation to help them move forward. So I've loved this. Okay, let's close this last question because I'm always thinking about someone's listened to this throughout today. They got the free brand call. We got that plugged up. But the next 5 to 10 years, what do you think is going to be the evolution of people's brands and the importance of it? And we talked about starting now and the importance of that. But I'm thinking about that person that's going, man, I want to start. I'm a little nervous. I might book the call. But in 5 or 10 years, the importance of the brand, is it going to go up? What do you think that's going to look like?
Yeah, well, I actually know. Well, I don't know now, but I know.
I bet you.
We did the first ever nationwide study. We partnered with a company in Texas, the Center of Generational Kinetics is what it's called. And we did the first ever nationwide study on trends in personal branding. All of the stats showed us that it's only becoming more and more and more and more and more important in people's business. And what's even more interesting is we thought, okay, if you're a podcaster, speaker, author, that it would be even more important. But what actually showed up is the majority of Americans care if their service professional has an established personal brand. And so think of doctors, lawyers, financial advisors, mortgage, realtors, all chiropractors, again, doctor. People want their service professional to have an established brand more than anything else. And you look at that as because typically, especially with doctors, financial advisors, mortgage, the higher the level of trust needed for a relationship, right, is the more important of established brand because it accelerates that trust.
Yeah. So I remember reading that study and we shared that with our mortgage team and our real estate partners. Yeah. And they were blown away. They're like, really? And it's actually been the catalyst for someone to say, you know what, I'm gonna get off the sideline and into the game on this because you're right. I do think it continues. We're all shopping online. We're all looking to go, do I trust this person? And that one phone call may not be enough, but if they've seen you online for a year or two, they go, yeah, I know you. I like you. I trust you. Okay, I don't need to call 5 more people for that service. I think it's huge.
I think because you have a large real estate audience, correct? We see a lot with realtors because realtors get targeted a lot for like ads and social media and content that good or bad, whatever, their perspective when they come in this journey is they need it to work like this. Yeah. That's not how this works, y'all. It is long game. It's building the business. It's consistency. So I just want to encourage like the people on here that are in the real estate business of just, you have to be willing to play the long game with this and see that you're building a brand, which is building your business. You didn't have success in real estate in your first year. Typically it takes a few years. It's the same thing with this. So just, it's again, long game for really anyone on this.
Yeah. The journey. And I am thankful that I started it 7 years ago. I can kind of remember back to when I was like, I'm going to start this journey, but I am so thankful I connected up with you and Brand Builders because the things that we learn in the community is the best. And so thank you for coming on today. Yeah. I'm going to plug the free brand call one more time. So it's freebrandcall.com/Brian
Covey.
Boom. Got to remember my own name on that. Okay. Guys, this has been another episode of Finding Your Competitive Edge. You've heard today, Elle obviously has a competitive edge. She knows the branding space. Make sure you book your call. Let us know that you've booked it there. If you've taken anything from today, we love to hear that. Drop us a comment and some feedback on the show. Rate it. Leave the comment so we know what resonated with you. And if you have questions, you're probably leaving like I was throughout my journey wondering, okay, what about this? What about that? Make sure you reach out to the pros and we are here to guide you through. Make sure you catch us on the next episode. And until then, go out there and do something great.